Alrighty everyone, welcome back. As we get closer to the end of March of 2023, that only gets us a step closer to the Ahsoka Tano series, which by the way is coming along very smoothly by John, George, Dave, and other creatives on board that's really handling what's now going to be a multi-season show starring Rosario Dawson and also bringing in a lot of Legends characters on top of that. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future Star Wars updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you also very much for the great and kind support. Now, given that there's a lot of change coming our way for Lucasfilm, of course, under Bob Iger, really calling the shots about all of this in order to desperately create his own legacy. We know that Bob Iger is currently in the middle of a shakeup between himself and the Disney executives, also known as the higher-ups or the board members, whatever have you, and everything that has been happening over at Disney for the past 6 or so months now to really get Star Wars under control. Now, that brings us to exactly what's been going on with the character of Luke Skywalker. Now, we know that what John and Dave are trying to do and attempting to do is that they really want to make Luke Skywalker very relevant in a lot of upcoming lore, be it Mando Season 4, Star Wars Ahsoka, and a whole lot more on top of that, to really find a balance. What's too much, what's too little when it comes to using Luke. And I think that so far they've really done a great job on finding that balance to really keep the mystery of the character at least somewhat available. You know, they did a great job in Mando Season 2 by finding out that balance, and they also found a great balance in the Book of Boba Fett, even though a lot of fans didn't necessarily like how it shifted away from Boba Fett himself in his own show. Now, with that being put out there, with John and Dave working day in and day out with these new projects up and coming, however, it's noted that currently Lucasfilm is doing something very drastic with the character of Luke Skywalker in an upcoming project for Disney+. That is, of course, The Mandalorian Season 4. Both John, Dave, and other creatives have been involved with a big scene that is going to change Luke Skywalker in a way fans would have never even imagined. Now, one of the big storyboards that has actually been in the works now for a very long time has been finalized for Mandalorian Season 4, involves a full-fledged scene in which both Luke and Ahsoka Tano are inside of an ancient Jedi temple that appears to be very cave-like, where Ahsoka is wielding one of her sabers to provide light and guide their way through the darkness. This is where old Jedi armor is discovered by Luke that is said to date back before the events of the High Republic era. Now, Luke is said to capture the armor and claim it as his own. This new canon piece is said to have been armor used for a single Mandalorian Jedi war, and that it is indeed made of course, Beskar armor. Another storyboard involves Luke on the battlefield with Din Djarin against Thrawn's forces, in which here Luke is wearing Jedi armor that appears very much like a combination of Mandalorian armor and straight armor out of medieval times. These forces that Luke and Din are facing are said to be some new type of stormtroopers that have yellow or gold-like molded cracks in their suits. Now let me just stop right here for a second. Now, we know that Thrawn and his forces are going to be a big setup in the Ahsoka Tano series that's going to debut later this year, so we have a lot of things coming out of that. The thing that really does take me back quite a bit here is that basically this armor that Luke finds and discovers is going to be something that dates back to a Mandalorian Jedi war that's going to be used by Luke himself. So basically Luke is going to use Mandalorian-esque armor that was once worn by a Jedi that's going to face these new Thrawn forces. Now, this one actually makes you wonder, could this very well be, possibly, something similar to what Tar Vizsla created? Because we know that John and Dave are setting it up, that Tar Vizsla also not only made the Darksaber, but also created Mandalorian Jedi armor. Could it be something similar to that? And something very much near to that is a big possibility. The fact that they're going to have this big scene that's going to be brief, but very powerful, where Luke is actually deflecting saber, blaster fire, I should say, using his saber, while wearing this armor, this Beskar armor, I think is a very interesting way to kind of combine the overall aesthetics of Luke as a Jedi, and also Luke as wearing this Mandalorian armor that dates back years ago. We're talking thousands of years. So there's a lot of things coming out of this, and there's a lot of other things coming out of Jon and Dave, you know, creating retcons when it comes to the Mandalorian Jedi Wars and stuff like that. Anyways, moving on to the next big thing. The Stormtrooper suits are said to be repaired ones from fallen troopers dating back to the originals. This is set to be established also in the Ahsoka series, with Din using the Darksaber and Luke using his lightsaber to take down these forces. Luke does so using the Jedi armor used for the Mandalorian Wars many years before Battle of Yavin. Jon and Dave are making this a small but powerful scene for Luke, and that it's also a merchandising opportunity for Disney and other companies as well for a new variant of Skywalker like never before. And you know what? There's no doubt about it that Disney immediately said a big yes to this by Jon and Dave because they saw the opportunity. They saw the merchandising opportunity. Let's be real. You know, Sideshow Collectibles is going to get in on this as soon as possible without a doubt. I'm trying to envision this in my head. Exactly what this could really look like in motion once it's filmed, and just imagining Luke wearing this Mandalorian Jedi armor facing Thrawn's forces. Thrawn's forces, we just discussed this by the way, are going to be basically pieced and fixed or repaired Stormtrooper armor, and new Stormtroopers facing both Din, Luke, Ahsoka, and others. This to me is a very interesting thing, and a very interesting thematic decision for Jon and Dave to combine both the Jedi aspects and the Mandalorian aspects in a very big scene that's really gonna change Luke in a way, visually speaking, of course. Now, I think that some fans may like this, some fans may be very standoffish about this, there's no doubt about that, but I think that Jon and Dave's decisions here and their motives are really, you know, out of pure love for the fans. I think that they want to do something very new, something very fun, something that they believe would really make the rounds and spread through word of mouth. And I think it will. I think that this is going to be something that is going to be a very big surprise. I mean, Luke wearing Mandalorian Jedi armor, I mean, what's not to like? Now, that's not to say that Luke's going to be like this for the entirety of Mando 4, but it's going to be one small, brief scene, but a very powerful one. They don't want to overdo anything. So Jon and Dave, once again, they are always exploring on finding that balance. What's too little and what's too much of something is one of their biggest challenges when it comes to Star Wars. So, anyways, with that being all put out there and said, I'm very thankful of what Jon and Dave are doing here, and I think that this is a very good addition. Some of you guys may be the opposite on that, so fill me in below. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and let me know what you guys have to say about this whole Luke edition from Mando 4, and I'll catch you guys next time.
From night to moon we hear them moans again.